Hey, we're actually talking about Jacob's trouble again. We've had two previous lessons on Jacob's trouble, and tonight we're going to actually talk about the burning of the temple. We're going to identify who was behind the burning of the temple, and once we identify those people, we're going to also tell you who they are today. So we're going to give you some Bible. We're going to give you some history. We're going to go into Edom Online. If you never used it, etymology is the study of words. And so we're going to break down a word for you and show you what they call themselves. Okay. So let's get started. Without any further ado, I want to go to where I want to start. Let's give history background. Let's go to Genesis 25. Genesis 25. All right, here we go. We're going to go to Genesis 25 and 21 and give you the background of a man by the name of Esau. And this is kind of giving things away by starting here, but I just want to go ahead and do it. So we're going to verse 21, and it reads like this right here. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. So Isaac went to the Lord because Rebekah had not become pregnant, and he asked the Lord to perform that miracle for him, and the Lord did it. And the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? Rebecca's asking, if this thing is from God, why am I struggling so bad? And she went to inquire of the Lord. So she went to the right place. She went to the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, two nations are in thy womb. Now notice, when you're pregnant, you usually say you're carrying children or carrying a child, but she had two. And it says two nations. It didn't say two children. And the Lord said unto her, two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people. So these two nations are totally opposite of each other, just 180 degrees different, okay? And two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. So now we got future prophecy going on here, okay? Now let's look at verse 24. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. So now it's telling you that these two nations, this is not some kind of allegory. It's actually two children being born. Okay. Now let's look at these twins. And the first came out red all over, like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And we're going to be looking at this man tonight. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. Okay, we're going to stop. Well, we'll finish the verse. And Isaac was 80 old when she bare them. Now let's go ahead into we're going to stay at Genesis. Let's go to chapter 36 real quick. So we have Esau being born, and I want you to see something about Esau. Now you're going to see in Scripture Esau is going to be called Esau. He's going to be called Edom. He's going to be called Idumea, which is just the Greek way of saying Edom. He's going to be called Mount Seir, which is the land that he was given. And he's also going to be called Seir, Seir, which is short for Mount Seir. Okay? So let's go down here to verse 8. I want you to see some stuff. It said, thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom. I brought you here for two reasons. I want you to see where Esau lived, which was Mount Seir. That's the land given to him. But I want you to see that his name was changed to Edom. And for the purposes of this lesson, we're not even going into why, okay? Let's go to the next verse. And these are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites. Okay? Anytime you see that ITE, at the end of a word, it means the descendant of. So Esau is the father of the Edomites. Remember, Esau's name was changed to Edom. So you can read that as Edom, the father of the Edomites in Mount Seir. Okay? That's going to be important for this lesson. Let's keep reading. Let's go now to Amos chapter 1. Do I want to do that now? No. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. We're going to go now to Second Kings chapter 25 and verse 8. 2 Kings 25 and verse 8. We have heard the word Edom now, so I want to go somewhere and show you something. Now, you remember in our first lesson, we said that the first beast was Assyria and Babylon, right? And so I want to show you what Esau did during this time. So we're talking about what happened to God's temple as well as who were the people that did it. Okay. So let's go to verse 8. And it says, and in the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, which is the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. So this is the first beast, okay? Came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard. So Nebuchadnezzar had a captain named Nebuzaradan, okay? A servant of the king of Babylon unto Jerusalem. Watch this, verse 9. And he burnt the house of the Lord. What did that captain do? He burned the house of the Lord, and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and every great man's house burnt he with fire. So they sieged Babylon. The Lord had already sent instructions to the Israelites and all the other nations around that Nebuchadnezzar was going to rule them. And if they were to accept that rulership, that they'd be able to stay in their land. Israel, even though the word was sent through Israelite prophets, decided to not listen. Even though they were living in sin, they thought that they were going to beat Nebuchadnezzar. They thought the Lord would rise up for them, even though the Lord sent word that he was going to use Nebuchadnezzar against them. And so, because they did not listen, the king and all his family and everyone they did not kill got carried off into Babylon. And just as bad as that, if not worse, the Babylonians burned the temple. And you say, well, what does that have to do with Esau? We're going to get there. Let's go to Psalms 137. Before we get there, let's get another account of this. Let's go to Jeremiah 52. And it's going to say virtually the same thing. Let's go to verse 12. I just want you to see that this is in here more than one time. So if you're ever looking for it. All right. It says now in the verse 12, now in the 5th month, in the 10th day of the month, which was the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, which served the king of Babylon, into Jerusalem. That's what we just read, right? And burned the house of the Lord, and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and all the houses of the great men burned he with fire. And all the army of the Chaldeans that were with the captain of the guard break down all the walls of Jerusalem round about. I want you to see that this part happened because we're going to go see what Christ has to say in a little bit, okay? I want you to see that that happened. Now, we're going to go back to 2 Kings, make sure I had gotten that real good. 2 Kings 25. And then we're going to get into what Esau did, okay? Go back down to verse 8. Now watch this. Verse 10. And all the army of the Chaldees are the Babylonians, that were with the captain of the guard, break down the walls of Jerusalem round about. Now, I just wanted you to see that this is put in more than one place, okay? So you got this being told what happened. You have eyewitnesses. So this actually happened. And you can go check history and they have records of it. And they actually have murals in museums around the world, even in Great Britain. Okay. Because the Babylonians proudly depicted what they did to our people. And I showed you some of those murals in the first episode. So now let's go to Psalms 137 and 7. I want to show you something. Now, the power nation at that time was Babylon, but they had a sidekick running around with them. And you're going to see that in this verse, and you're going to see it later on. And this sidekick was encouraging them to burn the temple. Watch this. Psalms 137 and 7. It says, remember, O Lord, the children of Edom. Remember, Esau is Edom. It says, remember, O Lord, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundation thereof. That word raise means to burn. They were the ones encouraging the Babylonians to burn the temple. Verse 8, O daughter of Babylon, who art thou, who art to be destroyed? Happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. You see that? Now, I mean, I'm trying to show you that Esau was there and Esau played a part in this, okay? Now, that being said, I want to, before we start getting into some other documents, show you who Esau is today. Now, I want to remind you that we got into, in part two of Jacob's trouble, we got into the Greek captivity. And in the Greek captivity, we saw that Alexander the Great was actually called the devil. And that was then he died after 12 years of ruling, and he had four generals who took over. And when they took over, it says sin multiplied in the earth. Okay. So before we get there, we need to do some identification. So I want to show you a quick way that if someone asks you, how can you prove who Esau is? I'm going to show you. The Bible makes it very simple. Let's go to Amos 1 and 9. We're going to hit two books real quick, and it's going to show you what's going on. So Amos chapter 1, verse 9. Let's look at it. Thus saith the Lord, for three transgressions of Tyrus and for four. Now, Tyrus is what we would call an African nation. Tyrus descends from Ham, one of the three sons of Noah, okay? So let's look at that again. Thus saith the Lord, for three transgressions of Tyrus and for four. That means you've done so much that I can't forgive you for it. I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they delivered up the whole captivity to Edom. What did Tyrus do to the Israelites? They sold our people to Edom and remembered not the brotherly covenant. Okay? So that's what happened. Now, I want to show you something. Um, let's jump on down. Let's jump on down before we go away from this. Let's go to verse 10. But I will send a fire on the wall of Tyrus, which shall devour the palaces thereof. So Tyrus has to be punished for what they did to the Israelites. Verse 11. Thus saith the Lord, for three transgressions of Edom and for four, I will not turn away the punishment thereof. And this is just Hebraic language saying, look, you did so much, you trespassed so much. There's nothing you could do that can make me change my mind about the judgment I'm giving you. Let's keep reading. Because he did pursue his brother with the sword. Now, I want you to remember something. When we were in Genesis 25, Esau had a brother, a twin brother, by the name of Jacob. Let's read that again. Because he did pursue his brother with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually. So it's not just what he did during the time of Babylon. He never stopped hating and never stopped killing. Even today, he kills our people in the street. And he kept his wrath forever. Watch this. But I will send a fire upon Teman. Well, who is Teman? Teman is the grandson of Esau, which shall devour the palaces of Basra. Now, we're going to get into Teman later on. Keep that name in mind. We're going to show it to you again, because that's going to help you to identify who Esau is today. Now, let's go into Joel chapter 3. Now, we have identified that Tyrus turned over Tyrus sold the Israelites to the Edomites, okay? Right here. Now let's go into Joel and let's see what God calls these Edomites. Joel chapter 3, we'll probably start in verse 4. Okay, so here we go. It says, Yea, and what have I to do with, let me read that again. Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyrus, Tyrus that you just saw, and Zidon. Zidon is another African nation, and all the coasts of Palestine. Palestine are the Arabs. Will you render me a recompense? The Lord says, Are you going to repay me because I didn't choose you as my chosen people? And if you recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head? The Lord says, If you even try, before you know it, I'm going to come back. And what you did tried to do to me, I'm going to do to you. Watch this. Verse 5. Because you have taken my silver and my gold and have carried into your temples my goodly, pleasant things. This is what they did when they took stuff out of the temple of God. It says, verse 6. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the Grecians, that you might remove them far from their border. Now look at this. We just saw in Amos where it says that Tyrus sold the children of Israel to Edom. Now it says that Tyrus sold them to the Grecians. You see that? Now I want you to remember something. Last week, not last week, last episode, part 2, we looked at the Grecians and we talked about a man by the name of Alexander the Great who was a Macedonian, supposedly. And then he became the first king of Greece. And this is what I tried to tell you last week. Anytime you see that IAN at the end of the word, that means you are not authentic. You're not the real people. It's kind of like we say reddish means you're not red, you're kind of similar to. Grecian means you're not Greek. But you could have taken that land. You could be calling yourself that now. You could be born there and raised there, even though your lineage comes from someplace else. It will kind of be like a Chinese person moving to America. And then when their children are born, their ethnicity still goes back to where they came from, but you might say that they are American. You see what I'm saying? So this is what we're getting into now. So once we identify who these Grecians are, we know that who Edom is. Okay. So let's go now to Obadiah before we get into the temple being destroyed again. Obadiah only has one chapter. Okay. So let's go down now. When you go into Obadiah, and it talks about right here in verse 6, how are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? And you keep going on down, and it talks about the people who were in cahoots with him, how they're going to turn on him. But this is what I want to get to. Verse 9. You remember I told you to remember Teman before. Watch this. It says, And thy mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed. Well, let's back up then. Let's go to verse 8. Shall I not in that day, saith the Lord, even destroy the wise men out of Edom, and the understanding out of Mount Esau, out of the mount of Esau, and thy mighty men, O Teman. So now we get from calling them Edom to Esau, and now Teman shall be dismayed to the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. How many of the Edomites are going to be destroyed in that day? When it says in that day, that's during the time of the Lord's return and reign. It says every single one of those people are going to be cut off by slaughter. See, they participated with the Babylonians, even though they were brothers to Jacob. And you got to catch that. And it said that they had no pity. They had perpetual hatred for the Israelites. Perpetual means it never ends. So there's no forgiveness in their heart. And we reap what we sow. So if they can't forgive, they can't be forgiven. Now, let's go on. I want to show you something. Do I want to get into, let's get you a little bit of history real quick. Let's go to, no, I have to show you something about Alexander the Great for those who weren't here last episode. Let's go to the Apocrypha and let's go to First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 1. And then we'll get into history. All right. So here we go. This is Alexander the Great. Chapter 1, verse 1 of First Maccabees. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian. So what was Philip? A Macedonian. Now, that means he came from the land of Macedon, but he did not originate there. The IAN at the end says that he was of national descent. He was not ethnic. Okay? Let's go again. Let's read that again. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes. So Alexander destroyed the Persians and the Medes. They were the power nation of that time. And so he became the most powerful man in the land. That he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. What was he? The first king over Greece. These are the Grecians. It didn't tell you he was Greek. I just showed you that they're Grecians. Okay? Verse 2. And made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth. And went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him. There was nobody else to fight against. He beat everybody. Whereupon he exalted, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. Verse 4. And he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. Now, watch this. Now, I'm going to show you what historians call this kingdom. They don't usually call it the kingdom of Greece because they know that they're not the Grecians. So they came up with a word. There's two words that they use. You can go in, you can look up Timanid dynasty, or you can look up Argead dynasty. Now watch this. I'm going to pull it up for you. It doesn't matter which one I would have put in, whether I put in Timanid or Argead, it would have both pulled this up. Okay. Now let's read this. This is Wikipedia, there, but you can find this anywhere. It says the Argead dynasty, and then it's right here in parentheses, it says Greek. And then it gives you the pronunciation of Argead in Greek, and it gives you the pronunciation of Argead in Roman. Watch this. The Argead dynasty, also known as the Timanid dynasty. Haven't we seen that word before? Timanid dynasty, because they descend from Timan. Now, I need to go back and show you who Timan is. I told you, but we're going to go back and prove it. And you know what? I am not showing this on my screen. Let me go back. I did not show y'all First Maccabees, but y'all could read that for yourself. Let me go back and show you this article that we're reading. That is my bad. Let me go back to StreamYard. Share screen. Argead Dynasty. Let me show you real quick. First, no, I'm going straight to Argead Dynasty. We're going to share that. Okay, here we go. Like I said, you can look up Argead, Argead, or you can look up Timanid, Temenid. So this is the Argead Dynasty, also known as the Timanid Dynasty. Was an ancient Macedonian royal house of Dorian Greek province. They were the founders and the ruling dynasty of the kingdom of Macedon from about 700 to 310 BC. Watch this. We're going to get the names. Their tradition as described in ancient Greek history. We're not going to read all of that. Let's go down here. If you look right here, let me see if I can highlight it. The family's most celebrated members were Philip II, which was Alexander's father of Macedon, and his son Alexander the Great, under whose leadership the kingdom of Macedonia gradually gained predominance throughout Greece. Okay? That's what I want you to see. Now, this thing, Timonid, that's because they descended from Timon. Philip always claimed to be of the Timonid dynasty. Now, later on, there was a lie by Alexander the Great saying that he descended from Hercules, and Timon descended from Hercules. Okay, he was descendant of Timon, who descended from Hercules. But we know who Timon really is. We know Hercules is not in existence. Okay, now let's do this real quick. Let's go back to the Blue Letter Bible, and I'm going to show you real quick because I told you where Timon came from. I'm going to show you, and then we're going to break down that word argiad real quick. And then we're going to show you the destruction of the temple by the Grecians. Let's do this. All right. So watch this. This is what we're going to do. We're just going to do a search. We're going to put in the name Timon. Hit enter. It's going to take us to Genesis. Now, see, it says right here in the sons of Eliphaz. We want to go down to Genesis 36 and 15, okay? So let's click on that. Watch this. Verse 15. These were the dukes of the sons of Esau. All right? The son, oh, I didn't mean to get out of that. My bad. See if I can go back to it. Okay, there we go. These were the dukes of the sons of Esau, the sons of Eliphaz, the firstborn son of Esau, Duke Timon. See, this is the Timon that it's talking about. And see, I'm going to give you some information on this Timon, why Timon is so prevalent, and the Lord wants to destroy Timon specifically. He named Timon among all the dukes. He said he's going to destroy all of Esau, but he called Timon by name because there's something about Timon that you need to see. So we're going to go to the Edom Online, okay? Which is the Etymology Online Dictionary. Now, I told you earlier that etymology is the study of words. So Edom Online will tell you how a word was originally used, okay? So let's do this. Share our screen again and go to, all right. So this is what we have. Remember I showed you the Argead dynasty. Now up here at the top, I put in ARG dash, which says the prefix to a word when it starts with ARG, what does that ARG mean? And now I messed up and got out of that. Let me get back to it. What does ARG mean? So let's go down here. ARG, right here, Proto-Indo-European root meaning to shine, white. Hence silver as a shining or white metal. I want you to get this, white. Again, white. So arg as a prefix means white. All right. So let's do this. It's a compound word, okay? Let's put in EAD, EAD, because we saw the word argead, okay? Now, EAD, right here, they have Edgar, but I'm going to show you something. Masculine proper name from Old English. See what it had? This is how it was originally written. Ead Gar. Literally, prosperity sphere. So what we're talking about is white prosperity is what they named that land, that dynasty. See, they didn't call it the Macedonian Grecian dynasty. They called it white prosperity. I want you to get that because we want to know where all this white supremacy mindset comes from. This is the first time they prospered. This is the first time that Esau became the lead nation. Before this, it had been Hamites. You had one Shemite nation, which were the Assyrians, They started off, but then Babylon, which were Hamites or Africans, took over from them. Okay. Then you had the Persians and the Medes. And then you had Greece, the Grecians, I'm sorry. But that word Argiad means white prosperity. And see where it has spear right there? Because I'm going to show you something. If you were to just put in the suffix AR, are we going to do that? No, we're not even going to do that. I mean, the prefix AR instead of ARG. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. I already started talking about it. AR, watch this. So if we did AR as a prefix, I should have put a dash after it. I mean, when it says spirit, I already spelled it out, but I just want to push the point a little bit further. See, because Esau's his blessing was a sword, and he was going to use that to go around and dominate. Okay. Um, so what I want to show you is right here. When you have AR dash, look at this right here. It says armament. You see that? Armature, armor, armory, army. That's what they were depicting in this name. See, when it said prosperity spear, it's talking about armament. Teman is the military power of Esau. So that's where Alexander the Freak descends from, the Temanid dynasty, okay? And so I wanted you to catch all of that. And that being the case, now we're going back to First Maccabees, and we're going to look at what happened during the Greek captivity as far as the temple is concerned. So let's go out of here. And I hope you caught all of that. I hope I didn't go too fast on that. But you can always rewind. And we're going to go back to First Maccabees. So for y'all that didn't catch it earlier, I didn't share my screen. Right here, chapter 1, verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead. He reigned in place of Darius because Darius had conquered the known world. Okay. Now Alexander the Great is ruling. It says that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. All right. So let's get it now. Where we want to go? Where do we want to go? Do we want to go here now? Yeah, we definitely want to go here now. Let's go to First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 16. And we're going to get into what Christ said in a little bit. Verse 16. Now, at this point, Alexander is dead. And so we're getting into some other leaders. Now, when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have the dominion of two realms. Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen, and a great navy. Right? So you see all of that. So we're laying a foundation. And made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. Watch what Ptolemy does. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. So the Egyptians took a beating when them Grecians came through. Verse 19. Thus they got strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. He took wealth from Egypt. This is when you see the pictures of white Egyptian rulers and things like that, this is where it comes from. See, before then, it was all black. You had Nubians and people of that nature. And where they'll fool you is they'll talk about ancient Egypt, but if you actually study what the schools teach, ancient Egypt is from its inception all the way until Rome took it. Okay? So that includes when the Greeks took it, and then it was taken back, and then the Romans came and took it. Now, we like to talk about Cleopatra a lot. Let me tell you something about Cleopatra. And we're not going to show it tonight, but Cleopatra was actually a Grecian. She was descended from these Grecians that came in, and she had a black mother, an Egyptian. So that's important for you to know, because a lot of you want to trace your lineage back to Cleopatra. You want to be Egyptian. You want to wear unks and things of that nature. Those are not our people. Those are Grecians. Verse 20. And after that, Antiochus had smitten Egypt. He returned again in the 143rd year and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude. So when he leaves Egypt, he goes to attack Jerusalem. Now watch what he does, verse 21, and entered proudly into the sanctuary and took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light and all the vessels thereof. And I forgot to point that out in the Babylonian siege. What happened, if you had read further down, not only did they burn the temple, they took all the valuables out of it. Now, when we got over into Amos, it told a little bit of that. So I just wanted to point that out. Now, the Babylonians actually burned the temple, but who was behind it telling them to do it? It was the Edomites. You see what I'm saying? Now, this time we have the Edomites actually as the most powerful nation in the world. And what do? They go back and they destroy the temple again. Now, this is God's temple. If they love the Lord so much, why are they attacking his people and destroying his temple? I mean, you can read more of this, but we read this in part 2. The purpose tonight is to focus in on this temple a little bit, because Christ has some things to say about it. And that's why I'm backing up rather than going to reveal the next beast to y'all, the 4th beast that's in Daniel. I want to harp on this a little bit. And then the next episode, we're going to reveal the 4th beast, okay? So let's go from here. Let's go now to, let's go ahead to Jerusalem. Let's go to Luke 21 and 20. Let's go to 21 and 20. So we see that the Edomites have, in the Babylonian captivity, they were behind the temple being burned. In the Greek captivity, they actually destroyed the temple themselves, and they took all the valuables out of it. And then they did some horrible things to our people. We're not going to read that tonight, okay? Let's go now back to the Blue Letter Bible. What time is it? 8:38. We got a good time. We're probably going to have a short class tonight. All right, here we go. We're going to go to the book of Luke. And we're going to go to 21 and 20. Let's go down. Let's see something. So this is what Christ says. And when ye shall see, let's back up a little bit. No, let's start there. I see it's a paragraph starter. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies. So when you see Jerusalem surrounded with armies, then know that the desolation or destruction thereof is nigh. So when you see the armies come around, this is what he's telling the disciples. Know that Jerusalem about to be destroyed. You're not getting out of this. Verse 21. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out. And let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written must be fulfilled. So one thing that was written was Jacob's trouble. And he said, now it's happening. The days of vengeance, the time that you were told about, a time like no other time before. Verse 23, but woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days, for there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. What's upon the Israelites? Wrath. Jacob's trouble. Watch this, verse 24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword. Not they might. and shall be led away captive into all nations. They're going to be slaves. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Now, this is what I wanted you to see here. It says, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles. And how long is this trodden down going to last? How long are they going to have their feet in our land? It says, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. The times of the Gentiles not fulfilled. Christ has not returned. So how can the people over in the land be the Israelites? Let's get you something real quick. Let's go to Revelation 2 and 9. So it says, I know thy works and tribulation. Isn't that what we're talking about tonight? I showed you before that this time by Christ was called the time of tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. Why are we rich? Because we're rich in spirit. We know the Lord. And I know the blasphemy. This is the bitter, wicked lies of them which say they are Jews and are not. So there are people in our land, because they are the Gentiles who trodden down our land. They call themselves Jewish, but they're nowhere near being Jews. What are they? But are the synagogue of Satan. You see that? They are the chief house where all the instructions come from for the rest of Esau to listen. It comes right from them. The Jewish man runs everything. He runs your music industry. He runs your sports industry. He runs your government. He runs everything. Let's look at it further. Let's see what's going to happen to him. Let's go to Revelation 3 and 9. So we just said that they are the synagogue of Satan. Let's see what Christ says further. Behold, I will make them. See, we're not going to do nothing. Christ is going to do this. He says, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say that they are Jews and are not, but do lie. See that blasphemy? They do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet. What are they going to have to do to the Israelites? These same people who took our land and claimed to be us, they're going to have to come and worship before our feet and to know that I have loved thee. They're going to have to recognize that the Most High is our Lord and that he called us and nobody else. See, this thing ain't for everybody. Let's keep reading. Where do we want to go? Let's go to Mark 13 and 14. See, because Christ tells of another time when the same thing is going to happen. And we're going to get into that next week. I'm kind of holding back tonight. Verse 13, and ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but he that shall endure until the end, the same shall be saved. So if you run around talking about you're saved, you can forget that. You're going to have to endure all the way to the end. You're going to have to pray that in these last and evil days that he keeps you. Keep reading, verse 14. But when ye shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet. Now we're getting there. Now we're getting there. We're going to go back to Daniel in just a second. Watch this. Christ told you to look at something. But when ye shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing where it ought not, let him that readeth understand. Then let them that be in Judea flee to the mountains. See, this is the same thing he said in Luke. See, it's going to be some abominable people doing some abominable things in Jerusalem. They're in a place they shouldn't even be. And let him that is on the housetop not go down into the house, neither enter therein to take anything out of his house. You got to get out of there. And let him that is in the field not turn back again for to take up his garment. See, this stuff already happened. But woe to them that are with child and to them that give suck in those days. And pray ye that your flight be not in the winter. For in those days shall be affliction such as was not from the beginning of creation, which God created until this time, neither shall be. And except the Lord had shortened those days, no flesh should be saved. Who is it talking about? It's talking about Israelites. No Israelites should be saved. But for the elect's sake, whom he hath chosen, he hath shortened the days. And then if any man shall say to you, Lo, here is Christ, or Lo, he is there, believe him not. For false Christs and false prophets shall rise and shall show signs and wonders to seduce, if it were possible, even the elect. Watch this. But take ye heed behold, I have foretold you all things. He said, remember the things that I've told you. And therefore you are forewarned and you know what to look for. Watch this. But in those days after the tribulation, or after the great troubles, after Jacob's trouble, the sun shall be darkened and the moon shall not give her light. And the stars of heaven shall fall, and the powers that are in heaven shall be shaken. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory. That's when this thing ends. Okay? That's when it ends. Now, he spoke of something about Daniel up here. So we need to go back to Daniel and see what happened. He said in verse 14, but when ye shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing where it ought not, let him that readeth understand. Then let them that be in Judea flee to the mountains. Now understand timelines before we go to Daniel. When Christ said this, the Grecians had already done what they were going to do. The Grecians came centuries before Christ. Okay? And so Daniel actually talks about the Greek captivity. I want you to get this now, because Christ is not telling you that the Greek captivity is about to happen, but it's going to be the same people by a different name doing the same thing. And that's what we'll get into the next lesson. But we're going to go back to Daniel tonight and see what Christ is talking about. So it's going to be Daniel chapter 8, verse 13. And we may close it out after this, because I'm having to hold back so much and trying not to give everything away tonight that is making it hard to really say what I want to say. So watch this. Verse 13. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint, see, Daniel seeing a vision, which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation? This is what Christ is talking about. To give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot. Isn't that what Christ talked about? So when the Greeks came in, they took away the daily sacrifice. And what they did was they started sacrificing all kind of abominable animals upon the altar. To the point that when Judas Maccabee, which we read about in the last lesson, after they took the temple and the city back, they actually took the stones for the temple out and they hid them in a place until there was a prophet to come to tell them what to do with those stones. In the meantime, they built another altar for the priests to do the daily sacrifices on. So Christ says, when you see this happen again, it's over with. If you hadn't already gotten out when the armies encircled you, you need to get out. And I read to you about when that siege happened in 70 AD, that there were at least 1 million Israelites that fled into Africa. And so, we were all over the place before then. But out of Jerusalem, there were over 1 million Jews that fled into Africa. And that's where you saw the Palestinians and Joel coming about, and they were getting involved in selling us to the Grecians, because what happened was that's when the Arab slave trade happened. As we're going into Africa, they were actually capturing us. So that being said, I hope I didn't go too fast tonight. It's 8:50 p.m. We're gonna just log off. I just want to say I love you, Israel. And next week we will reveal the fourth beast, and we will give a lot more detail. We're gonna get some books out and show you some stuff about this beast, and just tell you that beast is not gone now. And we're going to prove that. So we got probably about 3 more episodes dealing with Jacob's trouble. And if you tune in, it's only going to get better. We're going to show you what nation is going to be ruling when Christ returns, and who that nation descends from, because every people come from somebody. The Lord set up 18 nations, and everybody today descends from one of those 18 nations. So that being said, I just want to say Shalom, Israel, the water, or thank you for tuning in, and y'all have a blessed week. Let me see. I see we have a couple people in the chat shouting out. I'm going to say Shalom, Abadathia, and Shalom, Kevin Green. I'll put Shalom in the chat. All right, we're going to end the live stream.